Hey everyone, this is the Innovator's Mindset with Robby Cobbs. There we go, buddy. Robby. Robby.
Yeah,
Listen,
yeah, I'm here.
Robby and I were talking. We have a lot of commonalities in our career progression, some of the things that we love. And as I said, Robby, I thought of the wedding singer, right? Is that like,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Adam
You know what I mean?
Sandler,
Adam Sandler's
classic.
Robby in that movie. When
Yeah,
I said it, it's
yep,
like it's the two Robbies I know are Robby
that's
from
it.
The Wedding Singer and now you. So I just love it. So I'm actually going to be at Robby's conference in Puerto Rico coming up, the TechMySchool conference. And so Robby has a very fascinating journey, does some really incredible work. But I'm really excited about this conference. A lot of the amazing leaders that are in the area and coming from all over to be at your conference. So Robby, if you can. Other than your appearance in The Wedding Singer, can you just share a little bit about who you are, what you do today, and how you got there? I think it's a really great place to start.
Yeah, thank you so much. So originally from San Diego, SoCal kid, and went to Hawaii to follow in my footsteps of my idol, which was Dan Patrick. He is a
So cool.
sports journalist, and ended up working at a school in Hawaii at an inner city school called Royal Elementary. And through that experience, it kind of transformed my trajectory. I was a freshman in college and knew this was something that I wanted to do, and education was it. And so I just went on that path of working in schools, and I went back to San Diego, where I'm from, started working in inner city schools. I was there for about 5 years and had great experiences throughout San Diego. But my roommate was from Sweden, and I got an opportunity to travel to Europe, and I just kind of caught the bug, loved traveling. And I was thinking, man, I wish I could travel and teach. Wouldn't that be so cool? And I know there's like teaching English abroad, but I'm like, I don't want to get paid like $10 an hour forever. You know what I mean? And so I'll be like, but no one cares to learn about George Washington in their country. You know what I mean? We have our George
Yeah,
Washington or whatever
yeah.
they have there. So turns out you can teach internationally. There's a whole world of international teaching out there. I had a buddy who I'd met who met someone who was an international teacher, and that just opened up Pandora's box. And so off I went. I got my first gig teaching internationally at Almaty International School in Kazakhstan. I was a kindergarten teacher and really enjoyed that experience. And then from there, moved to Qatar, second, third grade teacher. So I was kind of progressively getting into the higher grades as I was working. And then when I was in the profession, I kind of learned something about myself. I really learned that I love to learn and I love to help. And technology kind of just was that great, venue for me to take because there's always something new in technology. Every time I was looking for something new in teaching, it was always kind of tech based. And then once you do something cool, everyone's like, "Oh, how'd you do that? Can you teach me?" And so I kind of knew that was my pathway. Another thing about me too is just I'm kind of a rah-rah guy. I'm an enthusiast. And so if you look at like tech directors, like the tech leaders in
Yep.
schools, they're the excitement guys. They're like the high energy guys, and they don't have to deal with all the headaches like the parent discipline or kid discipline or teacher discipline and all that negative stuff. It's always kind of like come in, show the cool tools, show them how to do it, get people excited, and then kind of like see you later. So I really liked that pathway, and I
That's
I I went to that
yeah.
pathway, right? So uh, from Qatar, I went to Silicon Valley. I was at a great school right on Google campus. It was a Chinese international school. I did fourth grade, and I was a technology integrator. So I got to, kind of learn technology through osmosis. All the kids at my school were at Google or NASA or Facebook or whatever. And so just phenomenal kids, great experience. Got my master's in IT, and then headed to Saudi Arabia, which one does, to become the tech director of the American School of Jeddah. Great school. That's where I met one of our mutual buddies, Kyle.
Hmm.
I actually worked for Kyle. I was the assistant tech director the first year, and then I took over when he left to Switzerland after that. And so I was only working with him 1 year, but we stayed buddies for a number of years. Went to Nigeria because I became the remote learning specialist in Saudi Arabia. There's
Quite the
terrorism and all
travels,
this.
man. This is quite the travels.
Yeah, so like it's this thing where like in Saudi Arabia you have this American diplomat school, and in any point it can shut down because there's a terrorist attack from Yemen or somewhere else. So you got to be ready to like keep school going in case school shuts down. So we were doing remote learning, and so I was the kind of remote learning specialist guy, and that was kind of my started to become my niche into ed tech as I was a tech director. And I learned George and I actually presented at the same conference when I was in Saudi Arabia when we were at Greece at Nisa. And then from there, I was brought into Lagos, Nigeria, because that's a location that they really needed a lot of help with remote learning. Ebola, they had political unrest, so you never know when the school might shut down. So that was kind of a niche thing for me. I was a tech director there. And then lo and behold, COVID happens. So when COVID happened, our school was totally ready to go because we were the school that had been practicing the fire drill before
Wow.
the fire.
Right.
You know what I mean? So when COVID happened, I'm like, here's our policy, here's our plan. All of our teachers are trained, we're ready to go. Boom, we already did a remote learning days. So they were set. We didn't miss a beat. The only problem with it was that I kind of was good at what I was doing and I burned myself and everyone else out. Like I was replicating that classroom to the nth degree. And we had 18 time zones that we were covering, every from Korea to San Diego to, just everywhere. So my teachers were really good at replicating the physical classroom to the digital classroom, but we just burned ourselves out. And so finally we were like, whew, all right, let's just take a break. Let's take 1 year off. Let's follow in our visionary leader's footstep, George over here. Let's write a book on EdTech, and get on an island. We're going to choose a beautiful island to live on, and let's do it. So we're looking at Thailand. We love Thai food. We've been to Thailand many times. We loved my wife. That's her favorite country. Zanzibar. We loved. I think the beaches in Zanzibar are pretty much unbeatable. So we were thinking Zanzibar, which is outside of Tanzania. Or the third place was Puerto Rico. And with Puerto Rico, it's got Spanish. It's a little closer to home. So Puerto Rico is, for those who don't know, it is America. Everyone's an American citizen. It's been a part of America since like 1898. Everyone's a U.S. passport holder. So when you're talking about countries, this is our country. And there's many things that look very similar to the U.S., but then many things that it doesn't look like mainland U.S. For example, it's got the National Park Service. It's got the same white mail trucks, the USPS mail trucks driving around. Costco, Sizzler, Walmart. It's got all the same stores, but then when you're driving around, it has definitely like a Latin America feel to it. Needless to say, it was in dire need of help. And part of this reason of going to live on this island and take this sabbatical was for me to write a book.
Mhm.
So I came here to write this book to relax, to chill, and to fish. So I bought a big truck. I was looking at boats. I'm getting ready to buy my boat to go fishing and just take this year off after burning myself out. I put my kids in these local schools that look very similar to Africa. And by the third day, I was like, I didn't mean to be that parent, but I was like, I have to talk to the director. Like, I have to see what's going on here. So I walk in, I'm like, hey, director, I know I'm a new parent and everything. Thanks for having us. Can you answer a question for me real quick? Puerto Rico doesn't have public education libraries. There's no libraries like in every other major city. Your school doesn't have a library. And I'm looking at the classroom library books, like, how do you guys do reading? How are you guys learning the reading, like literacy and stuff like that? And she goes, oh, we have our classroom books. And I was just like, I would love to give you guys like 40,000 books. Can I give you guys 40,000 books? And she's like, yeah, that'd be great. How? I'm like, there's this thing called Epic. It's called Get Epic, 40,000 books. It's free. Let me set it up for you. Like my tech director
Right.
kind of hat turned on, and I'm just like going through the motions of it. Like, hey, I'll be your tech director, basically. And she's like, all right, that'd be great. I'm like, what's your email? And she's like, catlady69 at Gmail or whatever. And I'm just like, dude, no, like, what's your school email? She's like, oh, we don't have that. I'm like, I'm just looking at this like 38-year-old guy. He's got these 12-year-old girls in his class. I'm just like, so this dude's personally emailing these girls personal emails I'm like, what? So anyways,
I'm
I'm like, all
surprised it
right,
wasn't a Hotmail account.
yeah, right. I'm like, all right, let me give you guys some, and I'm just going through the lot. I'm like, you guys have an email? Let me give you an email. How do you guys do student information? Everything's paper. All right, we got to get you an LMS, an SIS. So I essentially became their tech director. I went from new parent to training all staff the first month of being in Puerto Rico. And then it went well, the first month or two. But Puerto Rico is also America's most religious place ever.
Right.
So like you think it's a Bible Belt. I think like 60 to 70% of the people identify as religious or whatever.
Yeah.
In Puerto Rico, it's like 95%. So everyone's in these churches, they're everywhere. And the teachers started talking to each other. That's kind of their community. Like, hey, there's these gringos. They're giving us computers. They're giving us software. They're training us. They're great. You should ask them for help. They came and helped us. So before I knew it, I know another teacher hits me up like, hey, can you help my school? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Next teacher, next teacher, next teacher. Like I had 4 schools within like 6 months where I was their official tech director. I was driving to them. I was training them. I'm giving them all their stuff. And I formed this nonprofit called TechMySchool. And so that was kind of like
Yeah.
how we started off. And really it was just that feeling of like, I had traveled to 65 countries and
I got tired thinking about the travel.
yeah.
I could do it. I was
Yeah.
listening to all the places. I'm like, I don't even know half these places.
Yeah. So I've traveled to all these different places. And one of the things that makes me really proud to be an American is the fact that, it doesn't matter what you are, it's who you are.
Mhm.
If you come from India or Japan or Chile and you come to the US mainland, if you work hard, you're going to make it, especially when it comes when you're young, you're going to the schooling system. I worked in the inner city schools. These inner city school kids, I never met a kid who worked really hard, tried his best, blocked out the noise, and wasn't successful. You know what I mean? Those kids are always successful. Actually, they get like kind of front of the line treatment because they had to overcome so much.
Yep.
Here in Puerto Rico, you have kids who are working really hard, great families, they really value it. They're graduating high school, they've never touched a computer before, they barely speak English, they read at a fourth grade level, and they're trying, they're doing the right thing.
Okay.
And so it's like these are the first kids that I had met
Mm.
that were American that were getting this kind of raw deal because America, you have this kind of like rope to pull yourself out of, and that's education. Where all these other countries I'd been to, if you're the wrong gender, no chance. Wrong religion, no chance. Wrong last name or wrong tribe, no chance. So that's why so many people want to come and live in, I should say, Western countries,
Right.
Canada, US, Europe, or whatever, is because we have this rope that gets people out of poverty, and that's
Mm.
through education.
Well, it's interesting when we were talking before. Your background really isn't tech. You and I have like a strong love of sports. It's funny because when I
Yeah.
think of Dan Fitzpatrick, I grew up in Canada. There was no ESPN. I knew of him, but my
Mhm.
first like really knowing of Dan Fitzpatrick was in Adam Sandler movies, which is like he's been in
He's
several
the
of them too,
announcer.
right? And so I think that one of the things I really appreciate about your work is that you are very human focused, and then you learn the technology. You can actually see a lot of people going into school administration have I don't want to say a background in technology, but they worked with technology, and I think it's because many of them picked it up. They
Hmm.
weren't trained in it. They picked it up, and that willingness to learn new things, because you could be using a technology forever, and then it just changes and you have to figure it out. And
Yep.
that's part of leadership, right? Things change, you have to figure it out. And so you just kind of are driven to that. So I do want to ask you a little bit, because of that focus really on, human, about your book, Tech Centered Learning, Driven, a guide to improving your educational career technology. Can you just give us a quick synopsis of what your book is and what you're trying to achieve in what you wrote?
Yeah, so I did eventually write the book. It took a little longer because I was helping these schools, but essentially, this book was a way for me to kind of give back to the community. I wanted to have a book for those educators who are kind of like that on the cusp of being the tech person, or maybe they're labeled the tech person at school, or they're just interested in it, but there really wasn't a book for them to kind of make that jump. It's kind of the what, the why, the how of ed tech. And so what I did was I took all my experiences of working in all these different schools across the world in the US and everywhere else. And then also I interviewed like 40 of the top educators that I knew in my network and that I had heard of and I reached out to try to get their perspective, to pick their brain, and just to really kind of synthesize it all and put it in an easy to understand format. So if you're that teacher who wants to, take that next step, they can read the book and have a guide to do that.
And it's kind of interesting because we were talking about this too. Uh, there is a lot of pushback to technology in schools right now. I'm seeing it constantly. And it's, if you talked about technology 5, 10 years ago, you're kind of getting a bad rap. But what were you talking about? You weren't like, I don't, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying just, I'm including myself in that too. Is this a perception is like, if you put tech in your classroom, that's all you're going to do, everything will change for you. And it's like,
Yeah, right.
that's never been the focus. It's really about how do you use it to really deepen learning. But also, if it doesn't do that, you shouldn't be using that either. And now it's like, oh, the tech, wrecked everything. And it's like, well, did we, a lot of the issues that we have, and I ask this question all the time. You hear a lot of people, Jonathan Haidt, talking about social media. It's like ruined everything. And then all these schools are making sure that it does not exist at all in their school. And my question always is because did that happen because we over taught it, or
Mhm.
or did we just throw it in front of kids and just hope for the best? But what changed through that process? So that's what I really appreciate, is that you're really focusing on how do you deepen learning? How do you really connect with humans? And like, how can technology amplify those things, not replace those things? Because I think that is a misconception. Now, I am going to be joining you for the Tech My School conference in Puerto Rico. I'm really excited. And I've been there once before, and it was like just amazing people that I had met there, and really amazing experience. And I really didn't know much about the area, and as you know, that was when I lived in Canada. Really didn't know much, and it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool place to be, and like I said, just incredible leaders. So, tell me about the conference and like who's coming there, and like what do you hope to achieve from that event?
Yeah, so the conference, the idea of the conference was sprung on the fact that I had been spending my career, you know, luckily attending great conferences and speaking at great conferences and those kinds of things. And I just felt like it was such a powerful part of my career.
Yeah.
The networking I did, the things that I learned when I became a presenter, like how I felt changed as an educator, I just felt that was so powerful and so needed. And the capacity is in such need of support here because everyone's an American. They can just take a flight for 80 bucks on Spirit Airline and go work in New York or Texas or California. I mean, my brother's a PE teacher. He's making 100 and whatever, $10,000 a year, whereas teachers here are making 1,500 bucks a month.
Mm.
So they could never afford one of these great conferences that I had experienced working overseas and in the States. So I wanted to create this conference that was EdTech focused, but one that was just a five-star event where you've got great food, entertainment. It's at a great location, and it's at the Wyndham Rio Mar. There's two golf courses. It's right on the water. So when you're looking outside the window, you see the beach. And I wanted to just really kind of spoil the teachers a little bit and give them this experience that they can look forward to every year. TechMySchool covers the cost of the speakers,
Mm.
of the food, the entertainment, all of the tickets for the teachers. We cap it at 200, and then after that, they can, pay if they want to come. And so year one, it was just like, this is what a conference is, and this is what
Right.
conferences do, because they had no conceptualization of really what a great conference looks like or feels like. And so then year two, it was like, all right, we're going to do a 2 day. Day one is going to be the full day event, and then day two is going to be kind of a half day with a deep dive for those who really want to be there. And then this year is year three, so we're doing it 2 full days of breakout sessions and panels and all that great stuff. We also do a lot of great stuff like awards. We have a whole awards section for all the schools here. We do a bunch of raffles and giveaways. We work as the philanthropic arm of a lot of ed tech companies. So we're able to give licenses, discounts, stuff like that through many of our vendors who are coming. So because we're a 501(c)(3), we're able to give them, whatever they donate to us, we can give it to them as a tax break, and then we can then pass it on to teachers. So it's a big celebration of the teachers, their work. And yeah, so it's the people who are going to be there. We have public school, we have private school, we have charter school, we have low income private and high income private. And the reason I distinct those two things is because most people think of private schools as this like exclusive, amazing, rich kids type of thing go there. Here in Puerto Rico, half the schools are private. And if you're asking why, it's because there's such a teacher shortage. If you put your kids in public school and the teacher calls in sick, goes away for a surgery, doesn't show up for whatever reason, whether out a day, a week, a month, or a semester, they'll call you and say, "Hey, come pick your kid up. Don't come to school," because there's no substitutes for the kids here
Right.
because there's such a teacher shortage. So there's like half the schools are public and half are private. The ones that are private, the tuition is like 200 bucks a month. It's
Right.
basically daycare, and it's guarantees you that you have someone to watch your kids so you can go to work.
Mm.
So that's kind of like the big difference. And so this conference is a bit different than like an ISTE or some of the other ones in the fact that like, yes, we're focusing on the latest trends in ed tech and all that stuff, but it's very philanthropic in nature. We're giving all this away to these teachers who are the most underserved, underprivileged schools in America.
Okay, so I'm going to put myself on the spot through you.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm going to ask you is that, so I'm blessed to be the keynote for your event, and I'm very honored to be there. And it sounds like an incredible opportunity for myself, to be honest with you, and hopefully for the people that are attending, that listen to my keynote. So what are your expectations for me? Like in that opening keynote to set the stage, what do you hope that I do through that process?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the people here locally, they don't know the world outside of Puerto Rico when it comes to education. They know some local educators and maybe a few local tools and maybe some of the bigger tools, but there's just so much learning to be had. So I just believe that your vision, your humor, your personality, and all of the things that you're just going to open up, I think, a new world to them in terms of like, here's someone who's coming to you bringing a fresh or new view that you never really realized, whether you're talking about your, Forward Together teachings from there, or even your previous books were amazing. There's just so much learning to be had by these guys. You may feel like if you go to a conference in Florida or Texas or California, people are like, "Oh, that's old hat. We've heard that before."
Yeah.
I feel you're going to have a lot of new audience members here. So you can even do the classics, your classic hits, and it would, you know what I mean? Everything's gonna land, I think.
Well, I am so excited. And Robby, it's honestly been great to chat with you during the podcast, before the podcast too. So I'm like so excited to join you all. I know it's going to be an awesome event. I really appreciate all that you do to like help education, not only where you're at, but around the world. So everyone, thank you so much for listening. Robby, thanks for being on the podcast. I can't wait to see you all soon in Puerto Rico.
Thank you. And if you guys want to check us out, go to techmyschool.org, or you can go on Instagram and just type in TechMySchool. You'll see all the work that we work with schools for
Love it.
free and all that kind of stuff.
And that will actually be in the show notes down below. So thanks everyone. Have a wonderful day. Take care.